Hi, I'm Lori Pickens, a photographer and photo educator. I'm passionate about helping photographers just like you get profitable and productive in their own businesses. As a mom to 3 kiddos, I know how hard it can be to juggle all the demands of life. But I also know that it's possible to have a successful business and a happy family. And that's why I created Photo Goals, a podcast for creative business owners who want to learn tangible steps to automate their business through workflows, systems, tools, and strategy in order to go from scattered to streamlined with purpose. On each episode, I'll share simple, actionable strategies and systems that photographers at every level of experience can use. No fluff, just the good stuff. I can't wait to help you achieve your photography goals. Let's do this. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Photo Goals. Today, we're going to talk about kind of the shift between being a solopreneur and scaling your business and what that can look like. Specifically, we're going to talk about that pivotal moment that a lot of us face when we decide, is it time to outsource? Is it time to grow my team? I think we all struggle with this feast or famine, or, can I find ways to capitalize on my busy season and take on more bandwidth without feeling overwhelmed, without getting burnt out? Building a successful photography business, or really any creative small business, often starts as a solo endeavor. It's just us and our dreams and our hard work ethic. But at some point, a lot of us will have this question of, how do I know if it's time to expand? And even if I wanted to expand, how do I go about finding the right person to join me on this journey? A lot of us, I know, probably feel like your business is your baby and it's something that you need to control. And especially for high achievers and a lot of entrepreneurs, you feel you need to be involved to make sure things happen, or you want to make sure things maintain the same quality level and the same brand voice that you have. And you do need to find a person or a service that really meets you and your business where it's at and provides you that opportunity for growth. So, some signs that you are ready to grow. Let's be honest, the hustle is real. And I can tell the difference between a healthy hustle and an unsustainable overload. And here are some of the indicators that it might be time for you to bring in some kind of help. So if your schedule is overbooked, you're constantly swamped with editing, client communication, administrative tasks, leaving no time for creative brainstorming or marketing efforts, or even just a well-deserved break. Number 2, if your quality is slipping, if due to time constraints, maintaining your usual level of quality in editing, in client service, or project delivery becomes a struggle. It's that we're so at capacity that our kid gets sick and suddenly we're so underwater. Or I know I've had some busy seasons where in November, I was still getting inquiries and I was just not even responding to any of them. And I'm sure we've all heard this complaint from clients. I emailed 4 different photographers today. I didn't hear back from any of them. And, simply sometimes that's because we're busy too and we're overbooked. But I know for me, I at least wanted to know, at least I respond back to that person and say, hey, I'm booked for the year. If that's your stance and that's where your books are at, then at least communicate that. So I know for me, there was one year that I specifically remember this happened as inquiries were still coming in, and I couldn't even fit the brain power in to respond to them or move them out of my lead marketing and, my lead management. So you're going to know when you're struggling. You're going to know when your quality isn't where you want it to be, whether that's your turnaround, your editing, you haven't posted in social media for 3 months. So this is one of those big things, especially when I talk about marketing, is in your busy season, you stop marketing. And then when all those jobs run out, it feels like it dries up and you're like, oh, but the time that you needed to market was when you were busy, so that maintains and carries over in a nice. You're still going to have busy seasons and things like that. But a lot of times when we encounter slower seasons, it's because we've had a busy season and we weren't time to post on social media or send out a newsletter or do all the things that we know we need to do to keep clients coming in the door. Another sign that you're ready to grow is if new opportunities are coming to you. Exciting new projects or collaborations are coming your way, but you lack the bandwidth to take them on. Sometimes maybe you've given an opportunity to teach class or take on a bigger project, and you simply just don't have the time to do it or to even think about how you would fit it into your schedule. And lastly, burnt out. This constant pressure that takes a toll on your creativity, on your well-being, on your family. Growing a team can free up your time and energy for the things that you love and the people that you love. So there are obviously multiple ways that you can do this. There are things that you can outsource. There's editing AI tools that can help. There's automations you can set up in your CRMs. There's a lot of outsourced tasks that don't require paying necessarily a contractor or a specific person. I think I'm going to talk about all of those type of things in a different episode. So mostly what I'm talking about here is actually a person, a virtual assistant, a contractor, and joining a team. So before I dive headfirst into hiring a full-time employee, I would encourage you to consider hiring a virtual assistant. VAs offer flexible and cost-effective way to offload administrative tasks, scheduling, basic communication with clients. What is so nice about our digital online world is you're no longer kind of constrained by this idea of people available in maybe your geographic region. My online business manager, who started as a VA and has kind of slowly grown her role, I've never met in person. We talk all the time on Marco Polo, and I consider her a close friend now, but I've never met her or her children. And, we were a really good fit. And the fact that she lives in Kansas City never mattered, because we work things out. I have an overseas virtual assistant now. And sometimes it's weird because it's 5 a.m. her time and 5 p.m. my time or vice versa. But again, we kind of worked into what tasks make sense for which role to do. And you don't have to always be in person. I know I'm a big person that believes in, need meeting times and things like that. And like the idea of a project management tool and online communication and streamlined tasks and things like that. For a VA, you can think about what to outsource. Not everything needs to be done by you. So here are some common tasks ideal for outsourcing. Social media management. This can include scheduling posts, engaging with followers, running targeted ads, writing social media captions or hashtags or any of those things. And this is one that I feel like was one of the first ones I outsourced because one, I didn't enjoy it. I don't enjoy social media or being on it a lot and the engagement that you really need in order to grow. I had actually never done paid ads, but if I ever did, I would outsource it because there are people who specialize in that. There are people who understand the setup and the things, and you will make your time and money back by having someone who knows what they're doing to begin with, is my opinion. And I kind of feel that way about social media too. Brenna's really good about watching trends and knowing what types of social media posts are doing well now and kind of giving me that feedback of, hey, let's really focus on this right now. Or, there's a Reels push and there's this opportunity and that. And they're just things that I don't care about and I don't want to care about. So it's just easier to look for things. And as social media is one of those, think about outsourcing it. Bookkeeping and accounting. I do have an accountant. I absolutely think that if you have a business, any kind of complicated taxes, you should be having an accountant or a business professional advising you on what to do and how to do it. Bookkeeping in general, I've done this both ways. My virtual assistant and my online business manager both have the ability to update my expenses and payments and income in my CRM, which is Pixify. And just kind of depending on our workload just at the time, any of the three of us could do it. But it's important to keep up on. I think you make better business decisions when you know what your expenses and profits are each month. I think you make better marketing decisions when you know what you have coming up. So if that's not something that you're good at, if it's not something that you're good at keeping track of, outsource that. Even if it's just a person who imports, an Excel spreadsheet for you every week, I literally send my credit card statements. So I have a separate credit card that's just for my business. And twice a month, I export it. And I have bank accounts that are just for my business. And twice a month, I export all the transactions for them and just hand them to them. And they can import them into my system and organize them. And also good for accountability. Not accounting, accountability. Because there's literally a person twice a month that's saying, wait, did you export that expense sheet as? So it kind of keeps you on track because, again, it's not just you. I think this is one of the things that I love the most about having a team is it doesn't feel like you are on this island by yourself trying to keep track of everything and trying to manage everything. You have other people who are there to help. The next great thing I think, that is a possibility to outsource is website maintenance. Keeping your website updated and running smoothly can be outsourced to a web developer or maintenance service. For me, this one has looked like if I decided I want a new page or a new section of my website that I've kind of outsourced that. Most of the time I find there's a Show It user group on Facebook, and I posted what I wanted on there, and I found some great matches through that. I also believe highly in a great website template. And so years and years ago, I had gotten a website template. I think this was still, when I first moved from Pro Photo to Show It, I bought a template and had someone set up the basic template for me. Now, full disclosure, I'm a software engineer. So yes, I had the capability to get into Show It, to set it all up, to set up the back end, and I simply didn't want to. Just this past year, I actually got a new Show It template that I purchased through Kyle Bodie, and I actually hired him to set up my website template and optimize the SEO and the pictures. One of the things that I loved about his service is he was also going to pick your pictures for you. And it's funny to hear him on group coaching calls because there are pictures that, whether we know it or not, we have an unconscious bias about, or that we're picking because it was a good experience with that senior, or we love it because we know the kids in the family, in photos and things like that. And having somebody who isn't biased or unattached to the photos, just saying, this is the best one with lighting. This one has a great smile. The moms are going to love this. And I loved having that outside opinion of, you know what, this is going to sell on this page. This is going to convert. So whether you have a person that goes and does ongoing maintenance to your website probably depends on how much you need to your website. There are also services that will do blogging for you. I have a couple recommendations that I'll put in the show notes. And the company that I use when I do outsource blogging, they also offer like alt image tag text, and they will go through your whole Show It site or all of your blog posts and just write alt image description for you. So they're just simple little things that, again, when you're deciding what to outsource, I would sit down and think, what do you not like to do? So I always think of that, what's it called, a Venn diagram of like stuff that you like to do, stuff that you're good at, and especially, that area in the middle of, I'm not great at it, I'm not an expert in this, and I don't want to do it. Start with that category. So, finding the perfect fit. Now that you've clearly identified the need and what to outsource, you can explore finding the right person. So, the first thing you need to do is define your needs. Write out a detailed job description outlining the specific task and the skills that you require. You can utilize online platforms. There are some sites like Upwork or Fiverr, virtual assistant directories. There's one virtual assistant directory that Full Focus recommends. I do think they were more expensive, but I do know that they're a very well vetted virtual assistant. And I'm going to talk soon about how I found all of the people that I use currently. The only time that I've used something like Upwork or Fiverr was more of a one-off task. So, for example, I did an engagement party for an Indian couple, and I did photo and video of, the family beforehand and the entire ceremony and things like that. And while they spoke English very well and were good friends of ours, there's local doctors, and the uncle is actually my kid's pediatrician. But the entire ceremony was actually in Hindi. And so obviously I could kind of tell what was going on just by the, direction and things like that. But when I'm editing sound, there's no way that I would have known if I was cutting somebody off in the middle of a sentence. I wouldn't know what was a good stopping point in the audio and not. So I specifically searched for someone who spoke that language and understood. And it was funny because he also picked like the background music that flowed to the other parts. And when I sent it to the client, they were just like, "We love this song and this is so good. I don't know how you picked this so well." And, to me, I'm thinking, I don't even know what it's saying or what it was about, but I was glad it was a good fit. And the nice thing about those are a lot of those are it's very clear expectations of this is a one-time job. This is the expectation. This is when you have to do it by. There's usually a review system. So there's some kind of motivation for them to do a good job. And a lot of them will have kind of a back and forth, just getting expectations up front of, if the editing is not well, how many times am I allowed to send it back to you for comments or things like that? You can leverage your network. Ask fellow photographers for recommendations of referrals to VAs, freelancers, editors. This is probably where I have done more. So my photography editor, my main photography editor, I found her through ClickPro. I posted in the ClickPro group that I was looking for an editor. And it's funny because some of the fellow ClickPro members actually said, hey, I'm not taking clients right now and I have free time. And I have used some of them for my editing needs. But one thing I really found about Elizabeth, who I use most of the time now, is it's not like hey, I'm free to do this job for you. This is what she's trying to do as a business, as part of her money making, So she's more reliable as far as being available to me, communication back and forth, and not just, oh, well, shoot, I'm going on vacation or my kids are super busy this week. I can't get to your stuff. I have a reasonable expectation of I send stuff to her. Usually within 4 business days, she's going to have it back to me. And we both have kind of that business understanding. Other great networks. So there are this is one of my favorite things about Facebook groups. So there's a group called the Rising Tide Society. And it's this idea, it's honestly just a lot of creative business owners. And I love the name of it because it's this idea that everyone rises when the whole group does, so it's this, everyone's going to rise as the tide does. So we're helping each other, we're supporting each other, we're all lifting each other up, and the whole creative business is going to get better and start. And it's kind of this idea of if a photographer is less experienced or charging less and things like that, you're not going to put them down. You're going to make them see their own value and worth and get better. And it makes the whole industry rise. So I love that group. That's where I found my podcast editor. And it's also where I found Brenna, who is, like I said, started as a virtual assistant and is now pretty much my online business manager and does a lot of my stuff. Those are great places to just put out there what you're looking for and kind of get sometimes other people, you can even search the history for if somebody else had to look for what you're looking for. Maybe you don't know how to describe it, but you go out and you search the history of the Facebook group and find something similar and kind of look at the comments or message a few of the people that you want. This is a great place too that I found specific editors, I should say. So I have one editor that I use for most things, but I'm finding that really newborn work and studio work maybe isn't her area of genius. And, it is kind of a more time-consuming Photoshop effort. And so I've kind of found some editors that specialize specifically in that. So maybe you even have different needs, like an outdoor backlit family session is very different than a newborn on, in the studio. So don't make it a one size must fit all. You can have different people in smaller roles if that's what fits your needs. Conduct thorough interviews beyond skill set. Assess their communication style, their personality fit, and honestly, your gut feeling about potential team members. I am not a phone call person. It's just never been so I am a texter. I send you this back message, whatever it works for me. And I'm going to give you that same grace and understanding of, I don't expect to meet a message back in 10 seconds, but I know that when you get it and when you get the ability, you will message me back. I think this is one of the things that I love so much about Bretta is we Marco Polo. And so it feels like we have a personal communication and like we see each other and we talk and things like that, but there's not this expectation of when she needs to ask me something, she sends me a video message on it. And when my kids aren't around or things are quiet and I have the headspace to do so, I can respond back. So find a communication style that works for you. And honestly, this is how I feel about Pamela, who's my podcast editor, who's going to listen to all this and clean it up for you all. Honestly, when she and I talked, gosh, probably a year before I actually launched the podcast, I had probably talked to 3 podcast editors at the time that I talked to her, because I knew from the very beginning, it is not my zone of genius, and it was not something that I wanted to do. I did a lot of video editing when I was learning those skills, and it wasn't something that I liked. And this kind of reminds me of that, because you do want good audio quality, but there's also something weird about listening to your own voice back multiple times, because even the times that I've cleaned up my audio, it just feels weird. So I knew from the very beginning, I wanted somebody else to do that. And when I interviewed with Pamela, it just felt like a really good fit. You know, she had a lot of good Christian values, and she just had this vibe that felt like it meshed well with me. And I, for one reason or another, wasn't ready to launch. I didn't know really what I wanted to do. I still feel like I'm kind of finding my niche and my purpose. But at the time, we were moving in our systems and our workflows towards being able to add this podcast. But at the time, it wasn't a good fit. And so probably a year later, when I got to the place where I was like, you know what? We have consistency of place. Everything else feels manageable. I feel like I can add this. I reached back out to her. I was just like, if you're still available. And she was like, absolutely. And it was never about her not being the good fit for me. It was literally, I found the person, but I didn't have the bandwidth to even take it on yet. So sometimes you can even meet people or talk to people or have that connection, and you think, wow, they were great to talk to and great to work with, but you're not ready to hire a full-time position or an ongoing thing. But just keep that in your back of your mind, like keep that list of resources of connections that felt right, that your gut was like, this is my person. These are people that I feel like I could work with and be successful with. So tips for hiring success: set clear expectations, outline project details, communication channels, and deadlines up front. This is one very specific thing that I feel like I do well with my team, is I very much will tell them these 3 tasks are time sensitive, responding to clients, turnaround times for galleries or things like that. Those are upfront time sensitive issues to me. I expect to respond to the client in this amount of time. I also believe, what's the saying, that poor planning on your part does not an emergency on my part make, or something like that. So basically, if I've done a poor job of getting my social media post ready or gathering images, or I'm behind on recording my podcast and getting it to Pamela in time, that's not fair for me to then say, well, I still need you to turn this around and publish it on Tuesday morning when I gave it to you for Monday afternoon. So I think you need to have grace that you would give yourself to those people, and just have a clear expectation of, these are the things that feel important to me to not miss, that you feel like your business can stand on and feel like they are values that are important. And I think a lot of that helps too when I know I tell my team, like, if they want to work ahead, like if we want to get social media, I know I'm trying right now through the month of May to get podcast episodes recorded ahead of time, to get social media recorded ahead of time, because I know summer is coming. the whole winter is coming, but I feel that with summer because my 8 hours of uninterrupted time at home is about to end. My kids are coming home, which I'm thrilled for, but I also know it's going to change what my daily schedule looks like and my uninterrupted work time. Another great tip for hiring is to start with a trial period. Consider a short-term project to assess if the candidate is a good fit. Consider a short-term project to assess if the candidate is a good fit before making long-term commitment. So maybe this means that you hire them for one specific project, or you even say, hey, I want you to do this thing, as opposed to saying, hey, I do this every month and I want to hire somebody to do it. Set that up front where at the end of the month or the 3 months, whatever it is, they know and have that expectation of this may or may not continue. Because I will say I've had virtual assistants and things like that before the team that I have now. And there were times where it didn't work out because it was my fault. I can think of one specifically who she always did what I asked her to do. But I don't think I had the systems and workflows in place to keep work ready for her. So I would get overwhelmed when she would schedule my social media, but then I wasn't taking the time I needed to plan the next month. So when she was ready to do those things, I was like, you know what? I'm overwhelmed. I need a break. And if it's not, I think at the time I wasn't as business minded as I am now. I do have another job and, my kids were younger and there were months that, you know what? I'm not going to take on the client load that I had the previous 3 months. Or there was even one year that I took the whole summer off that I was like, if a dream thing comes in, then maybe I'll do it. But I was not actively seeking clients. And it wasn't anything that she did or that she did wrong. It was simply, I needed that break. And I didn't need the help because I wasn't actively trying to market. I wasn't actively trying to grow. I was fine with status quo. I was fine with the bare minimum. So I do think you have to kind of set that expectation of, is this a long-term thing? Is this something sustainable for you? Or is it I need a new website and I need help getting it up and going? Invest in training. I can't recommend this one enough. You need to provide initial training and resources to ensure that your new team member or members understand your specific workflow and brand aesthetic. I love Loom videos for this. I will often record myself doing the task and then send them the video and then ask them to do the next one. So Loom is basically a screen recording software that allows you to also talk through. So basically what I would do was I would go out and set up my QuickTime gallery. I would show what screens I went to, what settings I wanted to make sure I changed, what things I wanted to verify, that my simple sales system automation was set up correctly. And then I would basically give that to her and have her do the next one. And, this just works so great because you can it's almost like you're sitting there talking to the person over their shoulder as they're walking through it. They can have one screen up with your video and another window open as they're walking through the steps themselves. This can also be something that they can take and then, make their own set of notes for maybe like a shorthand version that they go through if they just want the quick and easy steps as a refresher. One thing I like to do is I even ask them what their preferred learning style is, because I have some people that I've worked with that like more of an SOP, more like a document with screenshots and instructions. So basically that they can kind of scroll at their own pace and they don't have to keep pausing a video and things like that. And I've had people who really like the idea of this video that basically, as long as I'm not moving too fast, or even that they can pause and do the step and then come back, that it just works better for them. And we all have those preferences of, you're probably listening to this podcast because you like audio learning as opposed to reading a book or a tutorial. And it's great to know what works best for that person because honestly, it's not harder for me to do one or the other. I can take screenshots as I go through my QuickTime gallery, or I can do a screen recording. I also think it's important as you go to make sure that you're giving feedback in a constructive and timely manner. Don't wait until the end of that 3-month trial period or something, or however long you guys have agreed to up front, and basically say, no, this isn't working. You did everything all wrong. That's not really fair to you or to the person that you're working with. And, maybe it's something that's a personal pet peeve or a preference of yours that would have been easy for them to fix. And on the other shoe of that, you have to be able to say when it doesn't feel like a good fit. I know at one point when I was still interviewing editors, and you kind of do that back and forth of, here's some samples and you give them back, or you give them feedback, or I edit some and then give them to them. And the stuff I was getting back just was not matching up with my style. Like even with examples, even with like our editing styles were just different. We clearly had different personal preferences on how a finished image would work. And, I said, it's not that this image is bad. It's not even bad. But I could tell up front that it wasn't worth the time investment it was going to take to teach her my preferences and my style. And so I simply moved on. I said, thank you for your time. This is just not a good fit. I'm going to keep looking. And, it frees her up to do the same. There was one time that I was actually using a VA service. So it was kind of like you contracted the team and you had like an account representative. And basically they had staff in their group that had experts in different things. So they had an SEO person, they had a social media person, they had all the different roles, but they managed all of that. So I basically told the needs to my account person, and based on who they had at the time, they would make sure that somebody was there to do the task that you needed. And this person actually was one that I had been friends with for years and I really looked up to. And she had been a VA for another photographer friend of mine who, in terms of scale and business, was a much higher level than I was at the time, that I really looked up to it, and at the time I was disappointed in some of the services that I was receiving. And I had done my due diligence. I had given feedback and I had said, this is just not happening in the time frame that we talked about. And I think she had a lot of life things. And it could be that the person is a good fit and it's just not the right time. And I know I had a business coach at the time, and I was concerned because I'm not a person that likes confrontation or likes hurting people's feelings. I probably always give people the benefit of the doubt. And I just kept saying she was my friend for this long, and I know that she's capable of doing it. And so I really just don't, I feel bad. Like, in other words, firing her or basically saying like, this is not going to work out. And it was interesting at the time, the business coach just said, have you ever thought that maybe it would actually unburden her? Like maybe she feels the same way. Like she feels like she has all these things going on in her life and she's not fulfilling your expectations, and she considers you a friend, and you would actually be doing her a favor of saying, you know what, right now it's just not going to work out. Maybe another day, maybe another time we could revisit this, or maybe just this isn't a good fit for us or our relationship. And it was just such a light bulb moment for me, because I had never considered that maybe I'm not disappointing her. Maybe I'm actually freeing her from something that she took on and felt a commitment to try and do for me, and she just wasn't able to do so. Be honest with yourself, be honest with them, and have those hard conversations when they need to be had. And don't let it go for so long that, either of you walk away resentful. So overall, I will say that building a team takes time. Growing your team is an exciting step, but it's also a process. You need to be patient, communicate effectively, and you'll be on your way to scaling your business without sacrificing creative vision. So I would suggest, even if right now you're not ready to hire somebody, even if you're not ready to make a monthly commitment, try outsourcing a couple of things. Outsource, even if it's a couple of tasks that you're paying somebody $20 an hour to do, you're going to learn some of those management leadership skills. Like I really feel not only is my VA or my business manager that I have now a better fit, but I also feel more adequate as a leader and a delegator to her than I was for other BAs, because I've learned from those experiences and I've learned what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and the communication style that I think works best for me. So try that once or twice to kind of even learn what you like, what you don't like, what is working, what's not working. And even if you don't have that need right now, you'll start to gain those management skills and be able to communicate for when you are ready to grow that business. The other big thing I will say is it's important in your slower season or in your off season to train, to communicate, to get some of those systems in place before busy season hits. In the middle of busy season, you're not going to have time to send something to an editor, then send it back, and then it not be at all what you need. And then in the same way that, if you're having somebody respond to client emails, if you're getting them in at a high frequency, that's when you need the person already trained in your voice and your brand and your style. You want to have where your inquiries maybe are a little slower, and you have that time built in of, here's what I would say, or even have, let them see some of the templates that you have or the wording that you would put, and then have them try some with enough time that you can still review them before they get sent out. So try to build that in the off season. And for some reason, you're listening to this episode in the middle of busy season. Don't feel like you can't, because, when you need help, you need help. And I understand that. But if you are listening to this in the spring or the summer or even the winter, I would advise you to look forward now, forward thinking into when you're going to be busy, what will you need help with? And even again, set that expectation of, this is how many weddings I usually have per month in May and June or September and August. I might not send you that many in February, but I think anytime you can be open and honest with each other, you can let them know the expectations and the fairness to each other. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and ready to explore adding a VA or outsourcing tasks, you can head over to the blog for this episode. I'm going to put some of the resources of how I found helpers, the virtual assistants, and my business dancer, and my podcast editor, and my photography editor, and some of the things that I've learned as I go through. I'm actually considering making this podcast episode kind of a multi-part series, and maybe talking one more about specifically the feedback that I give it my assistants as they've gone through. I even talked to Bretta about coming on as a dual episode to maybe talk about how, from her point of view, what she has worked, because I had her for probably a year and a half now that we've been working together. So, even from the assistant's point of view of what helps her succeed and what has helped our business grow and our partnership grow. So if you guys have questions or things on this topic, maybe just ideas that you have, if this is a topic that resonates with you, please send me a DM. Send me the questions that you have or the reservations that you've had about adding a team member or outsourcing certain tasks. Let's chat about that, because I would love to. It is something that I feel like has benefited me over the past year, that I have worked towards for probably 5 years now, that I've been trying to get to this place. And even ideas that I have for future growth. Like, now that I have a studio, I would really like to get to the point where I even had a local studio manager. Not so much in the scheduling aspect, because between myself and Bretta, we do a pretty good job with that. But I'm even thinking of somebody who goes and cleans up after a newborn session, or can help me with, my sitter session backgrounds or cake smash setups and things like that. Just help me. Ideally, my dream is to shoot and be all done. And still be the face of my brand and how I talk to it and show up for my brand. But that all the other stuff that I'm not passionate about gets taken care of by someone who is passionate maybe about that, and, just wants to be part of the team and help the whole business grow. So if you have questions, if you have ideas, I would love to hear them. So slide into my DM, and don't be afraid. If you feel burnout, if you feel at your capacity, take a moment and think about maybe where you could start, where you could grow, and even the possibilities of if you had more time, if editing wasn't the bottleneck, if client communication wasn't the bottleneck, could you take on more? Could you look at other projects to explore? So I hope this has helped, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Boda Goals. If you enjoyed this content, it would mean the world to me if you left a review or send this to your business bestie. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode. And as always, check out the show notes for links to all my resources and info. And as I tell my kids every day, be kind and make good choices.
Thanks for listening to Guiding Leader of You.